Life is so precious. All our lives differ in many ways, not on an accident, but on purpose. No matter rich or poor, we should all end in paradise. There are a group of individuals that I still consider myself a part of that receive the stigma and nothing's being done about it.
The latest trend could be the most tasteless, selfies with homeless people.
Teens turning the homeless into props to share online.
Since when is it okay for humans to become scenery?
What if this new trend led to bullying of the most vulnerable?
A general assumption when you're reporting on poor communities that unemployment is something we don't want to change. We don't want jobs. We're actually lazy in a lot of cases. We're also always in need of help. We can't do anything for ourselves. And the commentary reflects this in the way it speaks about a life in Marsh Farm, for example.
People complain, they say people don't bother looking for a job. Some people do. I was out there every day looking for a job. For 13 months I was signing on. And it's such a negative impact on Marsh Farm that makes it worse.
Those who oppose that there is a stigma towards those in poverty will say things like this. Coming from Derek Thompson's Your Brain on Poverty, why poor people seem to make bad decisions, why I make terrible decisions, a comment published on Gonker's Kinja platform by a person in poverty. That's very cruel to say a whole group of individuals make bad decisions because they're poor. Rich or poor, we all make bad decisions. That's human nature. For me, it starts with Dorothea Lange capturing one of the most famous pictures we know of today during the Great Depression, called The Migrant Mother. She spoke to the world with her camera, capturing the conditions those in poverty were facing, and it only seemed to get worse.
My name is James Ziliak. I'm a professor of economics and director of the Center for Poverty Research at the University of Kentucky. So as a professor, I conduct research. I also teach at both the graduate and undergraduate level. And as a director of actually director of two centers, I have some administrative aspects of my job as well. I think it depends on kind of the source and the time. The source can vary with kind of a more sympathetic lens. It's interesting, natural disasters tend to elucidate a lot more sympathy. So after Hurricane Katrina, for example, in 2005, there was a sudden surge of interest in poverty in Appalachia. And so our center was contacted by producers from Oprah Winfrey's show, from Anderson Cooper's show on CNN. I did an interview with Reverend Jesse Jackson on a satellite TV station, So it was interesting, Katrina hit, in New Orleans, but it was like this awakening that, wow, there's poverty in America that I think people had forgotten about. And so that lens then turned towards Appalachia. Stigma is generally kind of a social caricature for an individual or traits of an individual so that the person themselves feels this social isolation, right, associated with that stigma. Well, if I felt as though I could do something meaningful, I might try to diffuse the situation as best as possible. And if it looks beyond my control, then obviously I would call for the authorities for some assistance.
Bystanders reach the boiling point.
Alright, we're gonna beat up a bum here.
It's a shocking phenomenon, a sadistic pastime for all too many teenagers, bum bashing, brutally attacking the homeless. Caught on surveillance video, they beat them with bats, taser them, and that ball of fire is a homeless person being torched.
Where'd you hit him?
These teens in Canada actually videotaped their assaults, this time using a steel bar to the man's face.
Oh man, that would have hurt.
And when they're done, they urinate on their victim. Hundreds of videos of homeless people being assaulted are all over the internet, fueling even more attacks.
I think people that are less fortunate tend to have like a worse reputation, less education, I guess.
What kind of stigma? As in, just poverty is a bad thing? Yes, I think there's a stigma for that.
Yes.
Think you get steamed under the collar when you see something wrong? Just take another look at what happens when our innocent bystanders reach the boiling point.
Alright, we're gonna beat up a bum here.
It's a shocking phenomenon, a sadistic pastime for all too many teenagers, bum bashing, brutally attacking the homeless. Caught on surveillance video, they beat them with bats, taser them, and that ball of fire is a homeless person being torched.
Where'd you hit him?
These teens in Canada actually videotaped their assaults, this time using a steel bar to the man's face.
Oh man, that would have hurt.
And when they're done, they urinate on their victim.
I mean, it's despicable. You know, it's kind of beyond comprehension why people would choose to. Physical assault is not something that, you know, is generally encouraged.
I think it's kind of crazy and irrational. I don't understand why homeless people get treated any differently than other people, but I don't know the background history on why that was happening.
Well, I think that these people have something wrong with them, obviously, to be hitting another human being like that, whether they're homeless or not. So, I mean, just wrong, I think.
It's definitely wrong, and I don't know, it's horrible that somebody could do that.
I do, and I think our schools are probably the primary mechanism to do that. I think it's also important that our media expose this type of stuff when it happens. You know, that it becomes front page news.
Yeah, I think if that's happening all over the country, that's definitely a problem, because nobody should be getting beat up and harassed like that, no matter what your financial standpoint is.
I'm just confused, I guess, what you mean by, is there a stigma about poverty? I mean, there's a lot of good people that do help those in poverty, but, I mean, there's a lot of bad, obviously, too, like that. I guess it just depends on the person, I'd say.
Yes, I mean, we don't see it as often, like, around, but it's definitely a problem.
Well, education is kind of first and foremost an important thing. I think there are many people that grow up that really aren't exposed to poverty. I think those of us in Kentucky are kind of a little bit more sympathetic to it. And we hear reports about, you know, Kentucky being a poor state and having poor health and things like that.
But they still trust you, they still fuck with you. Anything you do, said she got a little bit of drama with her friends. She got a little bit of drama with her friends. She got a little bit of drama with her friends. She